Hey everybody, happy Sunday night, if there is one of those. Anyway, Bob here, average technician, above average life. Hope you're doing well. I've been having a bunch of views, so I wanted to thank everyone. I appreciate the views. I really do. Thank you. Big Pharma. Let's talk about Big Pharma. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I want this channel to be about experiences, mine, yours. Let's talk about everything. I love it. Technology moves me. A lot of things move me. Health moves me now in a good way, being positive. But, this is my experiences. I spent the better part of 10 years in the human services industry. Direct care, hands-on, children, adults, elderly, the gamut. I really did. Worked at a mental hospital, in a lockdown, medium security, one step below what you see in the movies. Worked with kids who had a lot of problems. Worked with adults who had a lot of problems. Worked with a lot of adults who had a lot of involuntary problems. I really liked working with the kids. I really, really did. That was really interesting for me. That was really cool. I really liked it. But anyway, on to Big Pharma. When I did work with the kids, it's amazing the amount of pills prescribed to these kids daily. Tons of stimulants. I mean, it just... Adults, horrible. Elderly, probably the worst. I mean, Big Pharma really isn't looking to cure us anymore. It really isn't. It's a very different industry, I think, than when I was a kid. They just want to keep us on the payroll. I really think so. They just want to keep us on the payroll. And there's lots of evidence to that. Isn't it funny how many kids stay on stimulants? Think about it. How many adults are on cholesterol pills, anti-impotence pills? And the elderly. That's their biggest customer base of all. Think about it. How many people who are older? How many pills do they take? When my father's health got to a point where he needed help 24/7, we had to get him help at a nursing home. We didn't want to. We had to. And you try to keep people home as long as you can. Keep them in the house they grew up in. Take them there when it's that time. But we found a really nice place close to home. And, he went in, things were good, but he still wasn't at home. But anyway, when he went in, he was on 2 medications. One of them was fish oil. Maybe a month and a half after he was there, good month, he was on 14 medications. And forever we tried to tell him about things. And, oh, well, no, that's what the doctor recommends. And we talked to another doctor or the nursing home's nurse practitioner. Oh, no, that's what they all recommend. All of that's fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. So, I was a nurse for a while. I worked in several things, So I'm just, asking, talking. Oh, no, everything's fine. You don't have to worry about the medication your father's on. We're looking good afterwards. But then I really started to look into it after a while. And he was on things like... My father had low blood pressure his entire life. His entire life. Well documented. From the time he was small. Not dangerously low, just low. Some people have that. Well, 2 of the pills he was on, 2 of the 14 different pills, was for high blood pressure. And I'm asking him, what the hell was that for? Oh, well, that's for side effects of other drugs. And it turns out there was 2 or 3 of those. And it's just, amazing. But I was told they were precautions for other drugs. It's like, you're taking a drug to be a precaution for another drug? What's the tax on the liver from the first drug? Anyway, I'm really convinced to jump. I don't want to jump around. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but not to jump around. But I'm really convinced my mom passed with complications due to a very, very popular arthritis drug. Again, I don't want to get into particulars. Offline, very happy to. Anything on this channel offline, I'm very happy to talk completely discreetly. Just so I don't get the people after me. The prescription mafia. What I can say here is that what she was taking was something that could contribute or make something like an infection worse, sometimes fatal. And my mom, at that point in her life, she was having a lot of UTIs, which is common when people get older. Things of that nature. Ladies get them more than men. But due to having a lot of those, she was getting a lot of, in and out of the nursing home, getting help and services herself. So I don't really know, but I'm almost positive that something contributed to her death, because one of the very popular drugs, as I said, was something that she was taking, and she had infection after infection. And when you have infections, you should not be taking these drugs she was on. And again, well documented. Lots of deaths from it. Research it. I'll talk to you offline. But, the amount of drugs I administered when I worked for the better part of a decade almost, I administered drugs to mostly adults and elderly, not so much children. I saw the drugs that were administered to children in the places I worked. But it's unbelievable because almost all of the adults and the elderly I worked with, the pills would fill the small palm of your hand, or like a Dixie cup, if you're old enough to remember, like a 3-ounce cup, to fill it or overfill it. And believe me, I worked in the industry and I worked the gamut. I worked behavioral, I worked straight nursing. I wasn't a registered nurse, but I was a licensed practical nurse kind of a person. I could give medications, accept injections, and I could do things associated with that. Medication certified in Massachusetts. But it was amazing. I couldn't believe the amount of pills. And, like I said, certain ones were behavioral, certain people weren't. And yet it was unbelievable. They were almost giving behavioral meds to the people that didn't need it. And all kinds of other precautionary things, I was told, just like my father. That's why it comes full circle. For other drugs, it's just amazing. Amazing. I can imagine what the taxes are to the liver alone. I had a friend of mine, a friend of a friend, who died at 37. He blew out his own liver on prescription drugs. He just became such a drug addict. He just went and broke into people's houses and cars and anything and stole prescription drugs and got high on them. And that way he didn't have to worry about getting caught with illegal drugs or going after illegal drugs. He just stole prescription from people. I mean, he could get screwed on that, but it's just amazing what I think of what can happen to the liver, because I had a friend who died very young in life, very young, because of doing just that. He was taking lots of them every day just to get high on. I mean, getting high on prescription medication for a prostate. He did it. But, I won't even start to get into the kickbacks and shit like that, whoever, doctors, practitioners, anybody, chiropractors, whoever peddles their wares, they help them. And then the lavish items come, the trips, the vacations, the items. So it's well documented in many books. Research it, people. The sad part is that here in America, everybody wants a pill for everything. Everybody. And I mean, I understand that, it's kind of like the food industry I'll get into next video. It all started to help people with expanding populations, but it just went awry. I think the same thing with the medical industry. It went to help people, but it went awry because it was easier to kick the can down the road and soothe symptoms and send you on your way and just go pick up a prescription rather than really look at the root causes. It's all about root causes. What we take today doesn't address root causes. It doesn't. I challenge anybody. But look at the items for a common cold. What if the common cold all of a sudden had a cure? And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I don't. I had a good friend who passed partially because of his conspiracy theories. And I'm not saying things aren't going on, but you gotta live life. You gotta take the good with the bad. Things aren't always as bad as you think. Things aren't always as good as you think. But what if all the common cold medications just dried up? What if they found a cure for the common cold? What would happen to all those profits? Think about that. Every time you walk into a drugstore for anything, even if you're walking in there for milk or bread, look at the drugs on the counter, all the stuff, all the over-the-counter stuff that would dry up if the common cold had a cure. Think how many people that would piss off in the profits area. There are probably really a lot of good people, a lot of good scientists looking for cures for that common cold and everything. But I think on the other side of that coin, there's a lot of people who don't want that. It's sad. It's very sad. It's very, very different from when I grew up. Very different. There's lots of people who would love to invent something and profit from it. Then there's people who would love to stifle somebody else's profits from inventing something and then try to steal it, get a hold of it for themselves. A very popular company, I won't mention it, I'll talk offline if you want, did this. They actually invented the first electric car a long time ago. A long time ago. There was only one problem. After they invented it and built it, prototypes, they built maybe 100 of them. They distributed some to the public for testing purposes and feedback. But after a very short time, they realized, hey, we're going to put ourselves out of business. We're in the gas business, because this was a long time ago. So what did they do? They eventually got scared. They tried to recall all the units, compensated people for them who brought it back. There was still some left out in the public, the people who wouldn't give them back. But all the rest got very quietly buried, destroyed. They just took them away, locked the IP in a safe to rot, crushed them all or buried them, and that was it. So again, I don't want to get too much into it, but it's sad. It's sad what the industry has become. And I worked in it directly. My mom worked in it directly her whole life. I wish she was still alive to give some input here. I'd love to have it. But again, don't want to stay too long. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your weekend. And happy week to you all. I'll have another video soon. Thanks again, people. Take care.